all of us. You are the chairperson is going to welcome you to this important interactive session that we are going to have today. And with that, I just want to request that we have a moment of silent prayer or for prayer or meditation before we formally start with our program. Baie dankie. Thank you very much, Kia Leboa. Let us then give over to the chairperson for the opening remarks and to welcome all of us to this interactive session. Chairperson, it's over to you.
Greetings, Program Director, Honorable Deputy Chairperson of the NCOP, Mayor Sylvia Lucas, Honorable Minister of Small Business Development, Mayor KPS Njaveni, Honorable House Chairpersons, Mayor Winingwenya, and Jomo Nyambi, Honorable Chief Whip, Ndademo Hai, Honorable members of Provincial Executive Councils, Honorable Permanent and Special Delegates, Honorable Representatives of South African Local Government Association, SALGA representatives, ladies and gentlemen. Program Director, allow me to take this opportunity to welcome with great appreciation the opportunity to make the opening and welcome remarks as we reflect once more on the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. We have had similar interactive engagements with the Ministries for Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, Ministers of Health and Basic Education, Water and Sanitation and Human Settlements, and Agriculture, Land Reform, and Rural Development. I wish to express my appreciation and indeed that of the NCOP at the interest shown by delegates and the level of participation throughout. The participation of the members of the Provincial Executive Councils and the reflection by representatives of the South African Local Government Association in these briefings provide us with a wall-to-wall overview of the actual impact of the pandemic in the country. These arrangements speak to the unique manner in which the National Council of Provinces seeks to pursue its mandate by bringing under one roof all the spheres of government. In its interpretation of the mandate of the NCOP, the independent panel which assessed Parliament as part of South Africa's African peer review mechanism process in 2009 made this observation with regard to how they think the NCOP should perform oversight. Quote, through its oversight role, the NCOP should be directed by the goal to contribute to effective government by ensuring that provincial and local concerns are recognized in national policy making, and that provincial, local, and national governments work effectively, close quote. This Honorable Deputy Chairperson clearly demonstrates that we seek to achieve what we seek to achieve, in the manner in which we conduct these briefings. As the members are much aware, the NCOP exists to represent the interests of provinces and to allow space for the formal representation of municipalities at national level. The purpose of today's session is to receive briefings on the progress made on the interventions to mitigate the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic in small business development, as well as the plans of the provinces to mitigate this impact. The perspectives of local government, as indicated, will also be shared. Program Director, the Department of Small Business Development is meant to play a critical role in the transformation of our society. It promotes and develops small businesses and cooperatives, and its work in this regard focuses on the economic and legislative drivers that stimulate entrepreneurship and contribute to radical economic transformation. It is generally accepted that our democratic state has made significant advances in the economic front since its advent in 1994. However, it is a fact that the legacy of colonialism and apartheid is still deeply entrenched in our society and in the structure of the South African economy. This legacy expresses itself in racialized patterns of poverty, inequality, and unemployment, in land and spatial disparities, in infrastructure and service backlogs, in concentrated structures of the ownership and control, and in the weaknesses in the SME and cooperative sector. Unfortunately, our efforts to deal with this immense challenge have been dealt a huge blow as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. The spread of the novel coronavirus has had a devastating effect on the globe. In particular, it has crippled the small business sector, which accounts for the majority of businesses worldwide and contribute enormously to job creation and economic development. Our great concern is that, as observed by the International Trade Center in their 19 business impact surveys, quote, women-led firms operate in many of the industries most immediately affected by the crisis, such as accommodation of food and food, as well as retail and wholesale, close quote. The International Labour Organization estimates that small and medium enterprises represent about 90% of businesses and more than 50% of employment globally, while they also provide the main source of employment in sub-Saharan Africa, accounting for 89.2% of the employment, with the majority of economic units being informal, that is 92.4%. Most of the workers and players in this sector are self-employed and work every day to earn a living and pay for their basic household necessities. Overall, these enterprises are therefore important drivers of the growth of economies throughout the world, including in South Africa. Given the severe economic implications of COVID-19 pandemic, governments are enacting relief measures to try and save small businesses. These include special credit facilities, job retention schemes, and other measures. In our case, government has had to provide assistance to small businesses through a number of interventions, which include, amongst others, the following: debt relief fund, business growth or resilience facility, the sponsor shop support program, and payment holidays. This demonstrates that in addition to dealing with the health crisis itself, we have had to find ways and means to try and alleviate the impact of COVID-19 on small businesses. colloquium held in June with various stakeholders that include, amongst others, government, private sector, spaza shops, small businesses, development financial institutions, labor, development partners, the National Planning Commission, assess the impact of the lockdown on South Africa's economy. One of the observations was that the impact on the entrepreneurship was such that 92% of small business operations in the country were struggling to continue with business end of business activity. However, there is hope that the COVID-19 disruption might provide new opportunities, such as small spaces, infrastructure focus, and township economy focus. It is therefore, Program Director, important that we use this crisis to reconstruct our economy with a view to accelerate inclusive growth to address unemployment and poverty. As legislators, our role in this regard is to carefully scrutinize the actions of the executive. With these few comments, it is now my pleasure, Program Director, to formally welcome all of you to this important interactive briefing session. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Madam Lucas.
Chairperson, sorry, I just had a small technical issue here, but I'm back on the platform. Thank you very much. Thank you, Chairperson, and thank you for the welcome to all of us. With that, open our interactive session. And in continuing, we will request that the Honorable Minister actually make a presentation on the progress made. We know about the very grave situation, particularly around small businesses that could not survive the pandemic, but also the fact that it was very well known for many years that the economy won't be able to survive such harsh measures. Unfortunately, it is not something that we could do a lot about, but at least what we could do as a government and as a humanity, we try to do to address this grave pandemic that actually ravished the history of our humanity. Over to you, Honorable Minister, to present to us the progress of your interventions. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Chairperson of the NCOP, Honorable Sylvia Lucas, to the Chairperson of the NCOP, Honorable Amos Masondo, the Whip of the NCOP, Honorable Seisom Hai, the House Chairpersons, the special and permanent delegates to the NCOP, and MECs from our provinces. A good morning and a good spring day to you from a very cold and cloudy Pretoria. It doesn't feel like spring at all, it still feels like winter. I hope it's not a reflection.
Thank you, Minister.
of the discussions that we are going to have today. I thought today I must share a screen, if I'm allowed by the host, that I share the screen so that I share the presentation for members to have the details.
The presentation time is yours. How you utilize it is completely up to you. Thank you. So you can do.
I'm trying to get my screen to be shared.
All right.
Our host officials can assist if it's possible.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind me.
I see a screen.
Are you seeing it? The presentation?
Yes, we see I see a presentation. I hope the rest of the members also do.
Are all members seeing the presentation?
Yes, we are, Minister.
Thank
Yeah, do
you.
you want to speak to Said?
Hello?
Honorable
The last
Minister,
time,
I don't sound
Yes, we
like a
can hear.
tokolo, so as long as not my voice, you can continue.
the last time when I was presenting the budget vote in this August House of the representatives of our people, I quoted from Charles Dickinson's Tale of Two Cities, where he says, we had nothing before us, we're all going direct to heaven, and we're all going direct the other way. The path we've chosen is to assist small businesses to adopt to the new normal that requires new business models, not the ones of Charles Dickinson's oxymorons. We are very clear in the work that we need to do, because like the chairperson has said, the devastation on the economy is severe, but the impact is worst felt in the small business sector. Our work is then divided into two phases. The first phase was the COVID-19 relief, and the second phase is supporting the restart of small businesses for economic recovery. In the COVID-19 relief, we did two things, which can be said is SMME debt relief, which focused on business survival, working capital provision, income protection, and payment holiday to CFA-funded clients, which dealt with the provision of debt relief facility, long-term business survival, cash flow improvement, and job protection. In the SMME debt relief, the number of applications we received, and we give you the total, the numbers per each province, all the applications that and inquiries we received were totaling 35,865. Of those applications, 21,414 were not complete, and they were referred to CEDA to be assisted to complete their applications. And then 14,451 were completed applications, which totaled 40% of the total applications that we received. And we approved 1,501 applications. From the statistics, it shows you clearly that the approvals do not get anywhere close to the number of applications we received. As a department, we did a survey with the World Bank, which is the survey they're doing globally. And we know to date that sitting here, 70% of those who applied for funding, whether at government or everywhere else, did not receive funding during the SMME, the debt relief period, because there was just not sufficient funds available. And this is part of the problem that we continue to talk about small businesses as drivers of the economy, but we continue to act in favor of big business, but not prioritize small businesses. And we have sought as a department to remedy the measures that we felt. The numbers of the SMME debt relief in terms of provincial spread in the approvals, it shows you that Gauteng, obviously being the economic hub, received the largest approval at 165.6 million, followed by KZN at 74.3 million, and then followed by the Western Cape at 60.4 million, and then Eastern Cape at 40.4 million, and Limpopo at 35.2 million, Mpumalanga 19.6, Northern Cape 10.5, and Northwest at 12.5 million, and Northern Cape at 10.5. And we know that when we're approving the applications, though we did the focus on provincial spread, we did not from the outset set a target of what we're going to approve across the different provinces. So it was a result of an effort to make sure that there's balancing, and therefore, in some instances, there was not much balancing. In terms of disbursements, to date, because the disbursements were not done, the approvals amounted to 513 million, but the disbursements were not done once off. We wanted SMMEs to draw down so that we are sure that the money that they are drawing down is really used for its intended purposes. So the drawdown was done monthly and it was supposed to be distributed over 3 months. And to date, we have done the disbursements to 306 million, 300.6 million points, that to 1,159 SMMEs. That drawdown or those disbursements, it tapered down because when the economy started to reopen, SMMEs opted that they don't need the relief, they rather get assisted to operate their businesses. And similarly, the disbursements went the same way, of Gauteng being the largest at 116.9 million, followed by KZN at 47.8 million, Western Cape 37.9, Eastern Cape at 30.9, and Limpopo at 32 million, and Mpumalanga 20.2, Northwest 7.7 million, and Northern Cape at 6.5 million. What was important with the debt relief is the number of jobs it was able to protect for those enterprises that were supported. Though we only supported just over 1,500 SMEs, we managed to maintain or protect 23,254 jobs in the economy. And the numbers are spread similarly to how the support went through. In Gauteng, 8,047, KZN 4,958, Western Cape 3,420, Eastern Cape 2,065, Limpopo 1,838, Mpumalanga 1,562, Northwest 633, Free State 738, and Northern Cape at 353. Those are the jobs that we protected. And it is important that we talk about the jobs that we protected, because the measures that were done were not only to save businesses, but to save jobs, because when you save jobs, you protected the livelihoods of our people. And we've done also an analysis of what are the sectors that applied for the funding and who was funded in that sector. Members will realize that community and social and personal services received the largest disbursement at 107 million, and then followed by a wholesale and retail trade, including repair of motor vehicles, motorcycles, personal and household goods, hotel and restaurants at 66 million rands. The other numbers are available for members to see themselves. So the disbursement shows you where mostly our SMMEs are active. And this analysis is important because it informs the way forward we've chosen to do as we proceed to ensure that SMMEs adapt to new models of operating, but they can survive bigger. The other measures that we introduced was the payment holiday for CIFA-funded clients. That provided a postponement of installments of up to 6 months for CIFA clients. You will realize that even the banking sector did not postpone installments for 6 months, they only postponed installments for 2 months, which is also for 3 months, which is also problematic because immediately when the economy reopened, the banks were now calling on their loans that they'd postponed installments on, and they continue to repossess either properties of SMMEs and also close businesses that are owned by SMMEs, not taking into cognizance the fact that the reopening of the economy did not mean that small business will or any other business will immediately generate a revenue and be able to service their debts fully. So CIFA did a postponement of installments for up to 6 months, and both on capital and interest. So we were not only saying you cannot repay, we're saying the interest that is accrued over the period or the 6 months period is also not going to be applied on your debt, it's going to be written off. We also did a debt restructuring for the clients that were funded, which included reviewing the funding periods and funding instruments, including the interest. And in terms of the impact of that work, direct lending of CIFA, there was an outstanding balance of over 334 million, and the installment postponed, it totaled over 75 million. And the jobs saved were 6,327, and the number of entities that benefited from that was 220. On the wholesale lending, the outstanding balance that was owed was over 146 million, and total installment postponed was over 30 million. Jobs saved was 31,084, and number of entities is 6. It shows you the big numbers that we've been pushing in that sector. So the total installment postponed from total payment holidays amounts involved a total value of over 105 million, and the jobs of 37,411 and 226 entities. So the next phase that we are entering into is the supporting small businesses for economic recovery. Our focus on that is the township and rural entrepreneurship, strengthening the informal businesses, localization through targeted import replacement, and support the utilization of local skills and services in the infrastructure program, and business viability of enterprises as we drive economic transformation for an inclusive economy. On the township and rural entrepreneurship, our argument is that South Africa cannot achieve an inclusive economy if townships and rural areas are not meaningful participants in the mainstream of the economy, and they remain reservoirs of consumption for the economy. That will not allow us to achieve inclusive economy and inclusive development and a better life for all our people. Cabinet has approved a dedicated program to transform and integrate opportunities in townships and rural areas into productive business ventures. And this approval was done just before the pandemic hit us in February of this year. And in the Township and Rural Entrepreneurship Program, we are focusing on building local competitiveness, which is the ability of an area to produce and market a set of products, which are both goods and services that represent good value in relation to comparable products of other entities, of other localities. And the coverage of this program includes your panel beaters, motor mechanics, auto spares, and auto fitment centers. Small-scale bakeries and confectionaries, clothing, leather, and textile businesses, butcheries, which is newly launched, manufacturing support also, which is newly launched. On the informal and micro business support, we based our support on a principle that formalizing the informal businesses will result on improved traceability, support, government planning, and budgeting. Our argument is that if we know who are the informal businesses, we are able to support them better. If we know where they are located, we are able to support them better. But also, if we can account for the number of them, then government will be able to plan better for additional support that is required. And formalization also helps with accuracy of measurement of contribution to the economy. To date, it is estimated that the informal business and the micro business are the major contributors to the economy, but it's based on estimation. It would be good if we could have an accuracy in measuring that contribution to the economy, because if we could measure that contribution, we can strengthen the support that we give to these informal businesses. So we also prime the informal and micro business sectors as a catalyst for import replacement. As we build the capacity for SMMEs to be major players in the light consumer goods manufacturing arena, we're saying the informal businesses and micro businesses must then become our route to market for those produce or products manufactured by other SMMEs. The informal and micro business focus, they cover spazas and general dealers, which is mostly popular, the personal care, which is hair and beauty salons, massage parlors, nail and all other things is newly launched. The informal and micro restaurants, including Chisanyamas, which is also newly launched. The fruit and vegetable vendors support, which is newly launched. The generic non-financial support on the township and rural enterprises and informal and micro enterprises schemes, they include business and financial management training and mentorship, including inventory tracking, management training, and support through unemployed graduate scheme and other initiatives. Why is it important? We are accused that we require these businesses to develop management accounts, to have financial statements, to do tax returns, and so forth. And the accusation is that they don't have the capability and the skills and the resources to do that. And we're saying we're not saying they must do that and leave them on their own. We've put together an unemployed graduate scheme that says those graduates who are unemployed, who are trained in accounting, business management, and related subjects, are matched or paired with a spaza shop, with a hair salon, with any other informal business, or with another township enterprise like a motor mechanic, a panel beater, for the next 24 months. They are paired with them to help them develop that skills, to help them complete the filings that is required, to help them complete the management accounts that is required. Because it's only when they can start to operate as businesses and keep the records that businesses are required to have, that they will also improve their chances to have access to formal credit. So by doing this, we are making sure that we support not only the informal micro businesses and township and rural enterprises, but we are also creating opportunities for our young people who remain unemployed, whereas they hold qualifications. We're giving them opportunities not only for experiential learning, but for also to create their own businesses in the services sector to support other small businesses. And we walk the journey with them. We have partnered with the SITAs that are relevant to make sure that these schemes are available. We've partnered with the UIF, and we've partnered with the banks also, because the banks have become a major partner, in particular, the Standard Bank and the Nedbank. We're also training on customer service management. We use an example that a vehicle that has already completed its warranty and it's out of motor plan, but still has insurance, it can be serviced by a motor mechanic in a township or a rural area. If that service center it's accredited, the skills are trained, the customer service is up to scratch, and we are working with the motor mechanics, panel beaters, and all other sectors to make sure that they are trained and they receive the necessary accreditations and enlisting that is required by the insurance industries to make sure that they can service those vehicles, and those vehicles will be liable for payment by the insurers. We're also assisting to facilitate compliance with the occupational and environmental health and safety standards, including the COVID-19 operating protocols. Of course, the requirement of the Business Act is that businesses must be registered, in particular those in the informal sector, and as much as the businesses in the formal sector are also registered, that they must operate with business licenses. What we have experienced is that majority of our municipalities have become a stumbling block or a problem in terms of licensing informal and small businesses and micro businesses. So we have put a system in place to work with our municipalities to make sure that we ease the burden of licensing for small businesses, including that in some provinces and some municipalities, the cost of applying for a business license, even for a spaza shop, is too exorbitant and not affordable. We are already working to make sure that we can standardize the cost to be reasonable and acceptable, so that the cost for applying for a business license cannot be an inhibitor for participation of our people in the informal businesses. For instance, the city of Cape Town, you apply for a business license for over 4,000 rands. It's not informal businesses as an entry-level business. It is not going to be possible that majority of our people can afford the 4,000 rands application fee. So there is a need to standardize, and we're working that we standardize. We are also making sure that those informal businesses that are in the business of wholesale or retail, we get them access to products that are manufactured by SMMEs, but also the other products that they have access to the other network of manufacturers. And we give them product training, and we help them to be able to have discounted packages because they become bulk buyers as they participate in our scheme. We are also offering industry-specific technical training. We also assist with a CIPC, SARS, and UIF registration and compliance for the first 24 months. Why is it important? What we have learned this time around is that if informal businesses and small businesses are registered for UIF, in time of disaster, the UIF is able to stand in as to relieve the burden of salaries or cost of employees on the small businesses. And this year we had to negotiate with the UIF to make a waiver and allow small businesses to register and do a commitment to honor their debt, but still qualify for the test that was done by the UIF. But we thought going forward, we must make sure that these businesses are registered for UIF so that in future we do not have the burden. But also it is important that SARS can have an estimation of this, an accurate reflection of the estimation of our economy. And therefore we want these businesses to register with SARS. We have even committed in our working relationship with SARS, who have established an SMME desk to assist the SMMEs to file their returns where they have to file. And it must be noted that registration with SARS does not mean the SMMEs or the informal and micro businesses must pay for SARS, the taxes in the SARS. Majority of them are exempt, and SARS knows that they're exempt, but it's important that we record that, because as these businesses grow, it's important that they also form part of the tax net for our country as we increase the revenue that is necessary for government to fund both the SMMEs, but also the other service delivery and social services that are required for their country. We are also doing value chain linkages for these SMMEs and informal and micro businesses, including township and rural businesses. And we are facilitating e-commerce and other business model transitions for them as they participate in the economy. The budget that was shared with you the last time we were here, we've just disaggregated it to reflect the amount that is directly relevant for the informal and micro and township and rural enterprise support, which is just over 993.5 million rands out of the 1.2 billion rands that has been allocated for SMME support. We thought, given that we are talking to the special and permanent delegates who are representatives of the interests of provinces, we need to give you a direct reflection of what do the individual schemes reflect in terms of your own province. But given that government has adopted the district development model, what are the numbers or the targets that we are chasing for each district? Because it's important that we don't issue schemes, or government does not issue support that will be concentrated on a few provinces, but the support must be able to reach all the provinces and all the districts in our country. I must confess, Chairperson, that we are having a challenge of application in some rural areas and rural districts, but given that the department has assigned directors, chief directors, executives in our agencies as well to be responsible for individual districts, in the month of September, we are going out to make sure that the government officials are in those districts or work directly with those districts and provinces to make sure that the applications that are required, we are able to reach our people. Because from the World Bank study that we have done, even though majority of our people know about the schemes that are available, they still feel, or they're still not aware of the ease of application of those schemes. So we have decided that we're going to put foot on the ground and go to apply or facilitate the applications directly from the ground. We are also urging permanent delegates and special delegates to go assist us in their own provinces, their own constituencies, to make sure that when they are aware that there is a spaza shop that qualifies for these schemes, they will then make sure they link them with us to help them apply, or we use your constituency offices to facilitate the applications. So for the Eastern Cape, in the spaza shop general dealer support, we're targeting 3,200. It's broken down by the detail that we have given for each of the districts. On the fruit and vegetable vendors, we are targeting 5,120. On butcheries, 1,370. Panel beaters and the auto repairs and motor mechanics, including auto spares and fitment centers, 2,055. Clothing and textile and leather entrepreneurs, 1,370. Bakeries, 4,881. Informal and macro restaurants and chisanyamas, 1,370. And I must explain, the informal and macro restaurants, it includes the women who cook in our pavements and sell food for workers in factories or in the public sector, what we commonly call Boma Makura in Limpopo. Those are the people that we are also supporting, including those who are running the small restaurants. Personal care in the Eastern Cape, we're targeting overall 685. In the Free State, on the spazas and general dealers, we are targeting 1,480 total. The breakdown per districts are available. Fruit and vegetable vendors, 2,368. Butcheries, 590, excuse me. Panel beaters and motor mechanics, 885. Clothing, leather and textile, 590. Bakeries and confectionaries, 208. Informal and micro restaurants, 590. Personal care, 295. In Gauteng, spaza shops and general dealers, 5,370. Fruit and vegetable vendors, 8,592. Butcheries, 2,030. Auto body repairers and motor mechanics, 3,045. Clothing, leather and textile enterprises, 2,030. Bakeries and confectionaries, 765. Informal and micro restaurants and chisanyamas, 2,030. Personal care, 1,015. KwaZulu-Natal, where are my totals for KwaZulu-Natal? I can't see my totals for KwaZulu-Natal. I'll come back to the totals for KwaZulu-Natal slightly later. Limpopo, for the spazas and general dealers, we are targeting 2,690. Fruit and vegetable vendors, 4,304. Butcheries, 1,200. Panel beaters and motor mechanics, 1,800. Clothing, leather and textile, 1,200. Bakeries and confectionaries, 421. And this includes on the bakeries and confectionaries, the women who bakes our scones, whether we have funerals or weddings and so forth. The ones who are baking from home, they are included in that number. Informal and macro restaurants and chisanyamas, 1,200 for Limpopo. Personal care, 600 for Limpopo. And Mpumalanga, we're targeting 2,110 and for spaza shops and general dealers. Fruit and vegetable vendors, 3,370. Butcheries, 880. Panel beaters and motor mechanics, 1,320. Clothing, leather and textile, 880. Bakeries and confectionaries, 309. Informal and macro restaurants and chisanyamas, 880. Personal care, 440. Northern Cape, on the spazas and general dealers, we are targeting 840. Fruit and vegetable vendors, 1,344. Butcheries, 290. Panel beaters and motor mechanics, 436. Clothing, leather and textile, 290. Bakeries and confectionaries, 103. Informal and micro restaurants and chisanyamas, 290. Personal care, 146. Northwest, spaza shops and general dealers, 1,840. Fruit and vegetables, 2,944. Butcheries, 730. Panel beaters and motor mechanics, 1,095. Clothing, leather and textile enterprises, 730. Bakeries, 256. Informal and micro restaurants and chisanyamas, 730. Personal care, 365. Western Cape, spazas and general dealers, 2,470. Fruit and vegetable vendors, 4,560. Butcheries, 1,080. Panel beaters and motor mechanics, 1,620. Clothing, textile and leather enterprises, 1,080. Bakeries, 378, excuse me. Informal and micro restaurants and chisanyamas, 1,080. Personal care, 540. In total, on the spazas and general dealer, our first phase is targeting 25,000. Fruit and vegetable and vendors, we're targeting just over 40,000, which is 40,594. Butcheries, 10,160. Panel beaters and motor mechanics, 15,395. Clothing and textile and leather, 10,160, bakeries 365, informal and micro restaurants 10,160, personal care 5,105 overall. And KwaZulu-Natal will have the benefit of me reading the individual districts because I was trying to find the aggregate totals, which is, given that we are presenting, is not easily accessible to now. In KwaZulu-Natal, in Amajuba, for spaza shops, we're targeting 250. Gerigwala spaza shop, again 250. Ilembe 310. King Pechwayo 430. Umgungudlovu 470. Umkanyakude 390. Umzinyati 270. eThekwini 1,630. Uthukela 330. Ugu 370. Zululand 380. Fruit and vegetable vendors in KwaZulu-Natal, Amajuba 316, and Gerigwala similarly 316. Ilembe 430, King Pechwayo 670, Umgungundlovu 750, Umkanyakude 430, Umzinyati 350, eThekwini 3,000, Uthukela 470, Ugu 550, Zululand 600. Butcheries, Amajuba 110, Gerigwala 100, Ilembe 130, King Pechwayo 180, Umgungundlovu 200, Umkanyakude 180, Umzinyati 120, eThekwini 550, Uthukela 150, Ugu 150, and Zululand 160. Panel beaters and motor mechanics, Amajuba 165, Gerigwala 150, Ilembe 195, King Pechwayo 270, Umgungundlovu 300, Umkanyakude 270, Umzinyati 180, eThekwini 825, Uthukela 225, and Ugu also 225, Zululand 240. Clothing and textile and leather enterprises, Amajuba 110, Gerigwala 100, Ilembe 130, King Pechwayo 180, Umgungundlovu 200, Umkanyakude 180, Umzinyati 120, eThekwini 550, Uthukela and Ugu 150 each, Zululand 116. And bakeries and confectionaries, Amajuba 39, Gerigwala 35, Ilembe 45, King Pechwayo 65, Umgungundlovu 70, Umkanyakude 63, sorry, King Pechwayo is also 63, Umzinyati 42, eThekwini 192, Uthukela 52, Ugu 53, Zululand 56. Informal and micro restaurants, Amajuba 110, Gerigwala 110, Ilembe 130, King Pechwayo 180, Umgungundlovu 200, Umkanyakude 180, Umzinyati 180, Umzinyati 120, Umkanyakude 180, eThekwini 550, Uthukela and Ugu 150, Zululand 160. And on the personal care, KwaZulu-Natal, in Amajuba 55, Gerigwala 50, Ilembe 60, King Pechwayo 90, Umgungundlovu 100, Umkanyakude 90, Umzinyati 60, eThekwini 275, Uthukela and Ugu 75 each, and Zululand 80. Those are the targets that we are chasing. And then in terms of progress and in terms of the provinces, how far have we gone in the various schemes? As I've indicated, though the panel beaters and motor mechanics and auto spare scheme was launched recently, we're not really happy with the numbers that are coming up. And what we have realized is that because people are applying online, majority start to apply and abandon the application. That's why we're sending teams out to help with the application process, but we are also urging members and delegates, honorable members of the House, to make sure that they communicate to our panel beaters, motor mechanics, and other beneficiaries of this, internet beneficiaries of the schemes, to say they can go to their local CEDA offices, their local municipal offices or district municipal offices. They can even go to the Provincial Department for Economic Development for assistance, and they will be assisted. They will be assisted, and they can also call us on our hotline numbers and email us on our hotline numbers. So far on panel beaters and motor mechanics in Northwest, we have 1, Limpopo 10, Mpumalanga 7, Gauteng 1, Free State 3, KwaZulu-Natal nothing, Eastern Cape 1, Northern Cape 1, Western Cape 3. In the auto space, Northwest 10, Limpopo 10, Mpumalanga 7, Gauteng 8, Free State 40, KwaZulu-Natal 6, Eastern Cape 4, Northern Cape 4, and Western Cape 16. On the clothing, leather, and textile. And this scheme is very important for us because we are conscious that South Africa must start to dress and wear that which is made in South Africa. Already in 2006, DTIC designated the clothing, leather, and textile sector as a sector that content must be 100%. It should mean, Honorable Chairperson and Deputy Chairperson of the NCOP, that all of us must be wearing that which is made in South Africa if we were supporting the schemes. We are already engaged with the SAPS and the DOD and correctional services, talking to them about the importance of having school, their uniforms, the police uniforms, the defense force uniform that are made by small enterprises, including developing the fabric. And we're saying if we cannot have the fabric at West, let's get the fabric imported from the African continent, because our sister countries within this continent are able to produce fabric which can produce that material. As part of the Africa Free Continental Trade Agreement and trade market, we must start to increase the intertrade within the continent. And in this scheme, so far we've got 31 applications from Northwest, 117 from Limpopo, 43 from Mpumalanga, 14 from Gauteng, 39 from Free State, 28 from KwaZulu-Natal. And the KwaZulu-Natal is not a reflection of their activities in that sector. And we're going to be working with the MEC in KwaZulu-Natal to make sure that the numbers reflect where they are, because KwaZulu-Natal leads in terms of the fashion industry, and they have a KwaZulu-Natal Fashion Council, which is very active. We're already started to engage directly with members of the Fashion Council in KwaZulu-Natal to make sure that we improve the numbers and improve access to the schemes, more so that this scheme is also part of the schemes that are in the manufacturing sector. In the Eastern Cape, we've got 2, Northern Cape, we've got 1, and Western Cape, we've got 20. Also in the Eastern Cape, that number is not a true reflection of the activities of our entrepreneurs in the clothing, leather, and textile sector. What I forgot to mention when we are talking about the automotive schemes, the panel beaters, motor mechanics, already the Minister of Police have declared that police vehicles must be serviced by small enterprises, but also the motor mechanics in the townships and rural areas, and also those motor mechanics that are emerging. So we have already started engagement directly with the South African Police Service to make sure that that declaration by the Minister of Police in our country can become a reality, is not just a talk shop or a talk show. And I'm sure as we brief you with progress later in the year, we'll advise you on how far and the conclusions that have been reached so far. On bakeries and confectionaries, we have received 3 applications from the Northwest, 42 Limpopo, 0 in Mpumalanga, 3 in Gauteng, 8 in Free State, 20 in KwaZulu-Natal, 4 in Eastern Cape, 6 in Northern Cape, and 4 in Western Cape. We are also working on this scheme also in the clothing and textile scheme, because it's the schemes where majority of the cooperatives are active on. We are working on the schemes to make sure that we support the cooperatives that were initially supported either by the department, but also by the Department of Social Development and other provincial departments that have supported the cooperatives. Work is underway to collate information of those cooperatives that have been supported, including cooperatives that have been supported by non-profit organization or community-based organization, to make sure that they are part of this beneficiary. Because our view is that all investments that have been made to support informal businesses, small businesses, township and rural enterprises, we should not allow them to falter. We must make sure that they survive, because they create important jobs for our people and generate important revenue or income, which goes a long way in addressing the livelihoods of our people. On the sponsorship support, on the sponsorship support, so far we have received through this is only through the Nedbank assistance, 8,860. applications, and we have already approved 4,626 applications. But if you add the applications that have come in directly from with the Standard Bank and also the ones that have gone directly to CEDA, we are sitting with over 9,000 applications. In terms of the approvals, and this is what's important, is that males who have been approved is 2,235, and females that have been approved is 2,394, and youth that have been approved is 1,095, and the jobs that have been protected by these approvals and participation is 5,572. And the sponsorship program, we'll talk about it later when we talk about the work that that program is doing to make sure that we create the route to market for other small enterprises. In terms of the budget, because we do monthly disbursements, that is the budget, it reflects how the approvals have been done so far in terms of what has been committed. As more sponsorships participate, the commitments go higher. And also as the months come in and the sponsorship starts to spend on the money that has been availed to them, the expenditure goes higher. Like I've said when I was talking about sponsorship, our view is that informal and micro and township and rural enterprise are routes to market for other SMME products. And that is given the size of the market that is serviced by township and rural enterprises and informal and micro businesses. If well coordinated, these enterprises can serve as critical route to market for other SMME producers and services. Because if we are going to support over 100,000 SMMEs who are in the informal and micro sector and those who are in the township and rural areas in this year alone, it will tell you that we have a market that other products that are made by SMMEs can be placed and be sold through those routes. So the department has already commenced a program to avail critical market access to emerging producers as we prepare them to for import replacements in South Africa. Our view is that SMME producers must become the most beneficiary of the import replacement program, and also as we prepare them to grow trade with the rest of the African continent. So the DSBD lists SMME products with participating wholesalers for sale through sponsorship, general dealers, auto spares, hair salons, and beauty salons. In addition, the DSBD is working with the Department of Agriculture, Land Reform and Rural Development to link butcheries and fruit and vegetable vendors to buy their stock from smallholder farmers who are registered with the Department of Agriculture and provincial departments of agriculture. So then we said, as we prepare them for these products to be listed, we're saying, what are the products that must be sold in spaza shops, in hair salons, but that must be made by SMMEs? Because we are saying when we support spaza shops, they must buy and sell products that are also made by other SMMEs as part of that route to market thing. So these are the products that we are listing in the participating wholesalers. To date, we have listed 48 products and we continue to increase the number. But we have already linked, we are linking 78 SMMEs that are producing these goods that are listed in this slide. These goods include tea, body lotion, sanitary towels, toothpaste, and so forth. And the listing includes preparing them. Some of the products are not certified by the SABS. We help them with that certification or any other standard body that is required for compliance. Also, some SMMEs don't have the right volumes. We help them build up or ramp up for the volume, including aggregating some to work together so that they can have the volumes to satisfy the market demands. Because you can't be wanting to sell in a wholesaler and you don't have the right demand. You don't have the right volumes because wholesalers and also big retailers, as we list, they tell you that we can't list a product today, wherein if we run out of stock, they won't be stocked the next day. So these SMMEs must have the capacity to have constant supply of stock. And that for us is critical. And we work with them directly to make sure that we build their capacity to make sure they have constant supply or the right quantities of stock that is required. And that is also important as we prepare them for the export market. Just to give an example of some of the listed enterprises and who are they listed with, we've got Midi Tea, which is a tea from Limpopo, and Magwa Tea, which is the tea from Mpumalanga, from Eastern Cape. Both Midi Tea and Magwa Tea, they are supported by the Provincial Department of Economic Development, and in the Eastern Cape is the Department of Agriculture. And Midi Tea is already listed with Prenji and Sons in Limpopo, and Magwa Tea is listed with a wholesaler called Discount. And sanitary towels, we've got Lindiwe sanitary towel. It's already listed with Devlin. So these are we're just giving you an example of the work that we've already done. There are others who are already listed with Macro, and I must indicate that BB Wholesaler, it's also an emerging wholesaler in the Free State, and they've been listing a whole lot of products. And well, we are hoping to find more emerging wholesalers in our provinces to make sure that we list and we support them. It's not only BB wholesaler, even Discount wholesaler, it's one of the emerging ones, but it's a number of wholesalers that we are working on. Midi Tea is also, we are working in the process of getting them listed with Macro, and also Poshia M of Poshia Mgomezul product, which is known as Poshia M. It's already listed with Macro. And we are very proud about Poshia M. It's one of the enterprises that were supported by both the Department of Small Business Development and CEDA in their infancy. Today, as they are listing here, they are already selling at Discam, they are already at Shoprite Checkers, they are already at Pick and Pay. They are also exporting to Ghana, Namibia, and Botswana. And we are working with them to export, to increase their export footprint. We've just listed them. I will not want to go to the individual list. Members will have the slides to their disposal. We have also launched a manufacturing scheme. And the purpose of the manufacturing scheme, I've earlier spoken about import replacement. Our view is that if we are going to be driving import replacement, we must have a scheme that supports SMMEs to manufacture products that are going to be replacing imports. So our view is that we build a manufacturing sector for an improved industrial base through a focused import replacement program, and build the industrial base for both the domestic and external markets, in particular the African Union market. And our view is that SMMEs must have an active role in that. The scheme provides both financial and non-financial support to small enterprises in the manufacturing subsectors. And in that, we provide business infrastructure support. We facilitate route to market, both to the domestic, public and private sectors, and the export market. We facilitate aggregate input costs for raw materials. We are also providing technical skills, product certification, testing, and quality assurance. And we provide financial assistance in loans, which is blended finance. Blended finance, it means it's portion loan and portion grant. And the focus, we've got 3 categories that we're focusing on the manufacturing scheme is the light consumer goods, and the ones that we're targeting for revitalizing industrial production, and also the high-tech manufacturing, because the economy and the world has gone digital. In the light consumer goods, we are focusing on food and beverages, what is popularly known as agro-processing, clothing, leather, and textile, as I've mentioned earlier, petroleum and chemical products, furniture, and other manufacturing. It doesn't mean that if manufacturing is not in the subcategories, it won't be supported. We're saying we're giving focus support on these ones, but those who apply and they've got a business case that can be supported, we will fund them as long as they are in manufacturing through the scheme. Revitalizing the industrial base, you'll recall that South Africa is the largest producer of chrome and ferrochrome, but we still are importers of steel and processed steel. And we're saying SMMEs must start to participate in the steel fabrication. That's why the basic iron and steel metal is part of our target. We are working with the Department of Minerals, Resources and Energy in the sector, and also partnering with the Department of Trade, Industry and Competition to make sure that SMMEs participate meaningfully, because it will need a lot of intervention. Some of the industries that had already closed in the steel fabrication will need to be rescued, or will need a reinvestment that the DTIC must drive, and we can have the participation of, and we think that we can also have cooperatives of steel fabricators, including those who are in the welding. And in the high tech and manufacturing, we're focusing on electrical machinery, green technology, and digital technology, including 3D printing as an example. We must also indicate that we didn't thumbsuck this focus area. We have worked with big retailers to say, what are the things that must be substituted? Even the list we spoke about earlier, it has inputs from some of the country's largest retailers and wholesalers to say, these are the areas that you can do imports, because I'll give an example of Massmart. And when they said they used to import nails, and then with the nails, the imports of nails, it was very expensive. Then they started to actively support an SMME in the Eastern Cape, from the rural areas of the Eastern Cape, to make nails. And then builders warehouse nails that are branded builders warehouse are done by an SMME in the Eastern Cape. I'm just using that example. They've got a number of other enterprises they're supporting. So this initiative also partners with the big retailers to make sure that they also, in their enterprise development support, they can say what products, and where there are gaps when they're doing enterprise development support, government is able to step in the name of the Department of Small Business Development. And where we have gaps, we are able to tap into their shelves, because they also have footprint. That's why we spoke about macro, big safe. We have a standard working relationship with them to say, when you pull these SMMEs who are producing, also link them with us, so that we can then have a concerted effort, because it's not the responsibility of government alone, it's also a responsibility of big business to develop SMMEs. And we appreciate the partnerships that we are having with these big retailers and wholesalers. On the financial support for the manufacturing, we are working, we support them to purchase machinery and equipment for working capital, and also fund the accreditation and certification of product. And funding is up to 15 million rands per small enterprise. And the funding term is determined by business cash flow, but to a maximum of 84 months per small enterprise. And we offer a repayment moratorium of 8 months before people can start repaying, so that the business can start to kick in. I've mentioned that it's a blended funding, which includes both grant and a loan at a reasonable rate, and it is repayable at a prime lending rate to make sure that it's affordable. Deputy Chairperson, I earlier spoke about the need to make sure the viability and future survival of small businesses. When the chairperson of the NCOP was welcoming us and introducing this briefing, he referred to the fact that small businesses, they do not survive for long, and they hardly survive a year or survive 2 years. The pandemic, what it has done, it has worsened the prospects for small businesses to support. So we developed a scheme to support the viability of small businesses. That entails both financial and non-financial support that is tailor-made to make sure there is sustainable recovery of small businesses. Some of the things that we do under the business viability is to hold equity in an enterprise as government through our agency CIFA, and make sure that we work on patient capital to give the opportunity to these small businesses to recover and be able to stand on their own and generate an income before they are burdened with the responsibility of repaying the debt that is owed to us. And we are funding enterprises that are protecting current jobs. And what do we mean by that is that enterprises must register for UIF and register their employees for UIF, so that we have protection. Because we are talking to the UIF and the Department of Employment and Labor on a possibility of jointly availing resources to include the resource available for the business viability. And you'll see why that is important, that we pull the resources given the numbers that we are already chasing. And we are approaching the business viability in a phased approach. Phase one, we are funding enterprises that were already supported by the DSBD, CIFA, and CEDA, including the Department of Employment and Labor. And this is our phase one. We went as far back as those who were supported from 2014 to date to look for them and say, do you want some funding? And phase 2, we are looking at funding the enterprises that applied for the debt relief but could not be funded due to budgetary constraints. You remember we mentioned that over 14,000 enterprises could not be funded due to the lack of funds in the debt relief before we closed it. And now we are doing an assessment of those applications and reaching out to them to say, are you interested in participating through the business viability scheme? And then the third phase, we are looking at enterprises that will preserve jobs across so they can apply afresh, but we thought we should phase it in so that we can have clear targets and progress. In terms of progress with the phase 1, for enterprises that have been funded or supported by the GSBD since 2014 is 3,246. We have already contacted 544 of those to check their willingness to participate in the business viability scheme, and 227 of those have opted to participate in the scheme, and we are busy assisting them with the application processes. At CIFA since 2014, they supported 2,846, or they rather funded. They've already contacted 1,074 of those enterprises, and 504 of those enterprises have opted to participate in the business viability scheme. Of CEDA, they've supported 47,562 since 2014, and they've already contacted 209 telephonically, and we have advised them to issue the bulk emails to the supported enterprise because their numbers are moving a bit on the slow side. And 82 of those have opted to participate. And we must note that majority of those were supported by CEDA. They were saying they are not willing to look for loan funding, they want grant funding. Unfortunately, grant funding is not available under the scheme because for us, it's important that we have repayments of the loan so that we can reach more. That's why we have phased it in so that as others start to repay, we can reach more enterprises to support, even though we have reduced their burden by availing the grant portion of the money. To date, a total of 1,825 SMMEs have been contacted, and 811 has expressed interest in participating in the business viability scheme. This is our phase 1, but we have already commenced also to look at the other profiles of the ones who have applied for the debt relief so that they can run simultaneously as we do the progress. We are hoping that we'll be afforded another opportunity at the NCOP to give progress report on the work of the schemes that we have newly launched. And we are also hoping that members of the NCOP will assist us to reach more people in terms of participating in the schemes. As I conclude, Chairperson, when one admits that nothing is certain, one must also add that some things are more nearly certain than others. It depends on our actions, and we are determined to act in a way that will bring some semblance of certainty to the SMME sector, to the informal and micro businesses, to enterprises that are in our township and rural areas. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Members, you will notice that I gave the Minister a little bit of extra time because I thought it was very important that we must get all the information that is at our disposal. So thank you very much, Honorable Minister. We will now give to the members for the clarity seeking information and for questions so that we will discuss it before we start to actually have the inputs by MECs on provincial developments. Honorable members, let me just open the participants and you can use the raise your hand function, and we will immediately start and we will give to Honorable Ndongeni.
Honorable Mushodi, Chair. Honorable Mushodi.
Mushodi, don't you have the raise your hand function?
Yes, ma'am, I don't. Okay. I don't have.
Sharp, we will put you there. We will then give to Honorable Ndongeni. You may start. Ndongeni.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Minister, about the briefing and information. I have only two questions. The first question is on payment holiday. payment holiday to CFA-funded clients is one of the interventions during this period of lockdown. Can Minister update the House on progress of the payment holiday and what challenges are encountered and what are the plans going forward? The second one is the challenge of access to markets for SMMEs is the one of the concern facing the development of small businesses. This will likely be compounded by the lockdown due to COVID-19. How will the department further assist small business with regard to the access to markets, including international markets? Thanks, Deputy Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Ndongeni. The next question will be asked by Honorable Dutoy.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Minister, since job security is of the utmost importance and millions of jobs in South Africa has been lost during this COVID period, and you pride yourself in assisting small businesses, I've got two questions. Question one, what have you and your department done to assist job creating, tax paying businesses that are not BE compliant? And the second question, if any, how many of these businesses have been assisted by your department during the COVID period? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Dutoy. Honorable Bibi. Honorable Bibi.
Ngiyabonga sekela sihlalo wendlu ngibingelele uminister kanye nama special delegates ethu akhona ngokukhethekile uKZN wethu MEC uDube kanye no James Nxumalo no Fraser special delegates of KZN kanye nozakwethu esihlalo ngithi angisho ukuthi ngqongqoshe ngiyakufakazela konke lokho okushoyo ngo-KZN ngoba ungqongqoshe wethu unyoni ayiphumuli uma bizwa sabele when it comes to lokhuzana ama-SMMEs. Imibuzo yami mibili ngqongqoshe engizokubuza kuyona. The first one will be during the first few weeks of the announcement of the lockdown, KZN was reported to have the highest number of participation wholesalers to support spaza shops. What made KZN organize and experience a particular success in taking advantage of the programs available to spaza shops? The second question, Minister, will be whether the department has a plan in place to address the post-lockdown intervention to ensure that businesses are assisted to upgrade and get appropriate financial support to operate in different operating environments. If yes, what does the plan entails on post-lockdown intervention? If no, why not? Ngiyabonga sekela sihlalo wendlu.
Thank you, Honorable Bibi. Honorable Arnold.
Thank you, Chairperson, and good morning to everyone. Thank you. My first question that I want to raise is in terms of the small business development program that they are running in terms of the spaza shops and general dealer support. Let me first, Minister, note with concern the Western Cape applications, which is 75 and approvals is 30. And I think we need to call on you to urgently intervene so that these spaza shops owners can be assisted with those outstanding applications. I think this is unacceptable that we are sitting in a current situation like this now and the applications has not yet been dealt with. But let me also just say that the Ministry of Small Business Development was established to turn around SMMEs and to place SMMEs at the center of economic growth and job creation. And it is a fact that before COVID-19, that instead of turning around the economy, we went backwards. So the ANC have failed to grow the economy and to create jobs. Now, my question that I want to raise is also now in terms of informal traders in townships. Those informal traders in Kailitsa, as an example, Guguletu, Mitchell's Plain, and all over the Western Cape. What is the plans now to assist also those informal traders? And then, in terms of business property inequality, and here a lot of businesses has come to us and say that they are suffering. Small businesses are suffering under greedy landlords with more than one business property, where small businesses have to pay exorbitant rent to have their businesses, to run their businesses. Now, what can the government do to assist? And when are these businesses going to get properties, business properties also, so that they can continue with their businesses? Because most of them are sitting without business properties, and they are facing now evictions also from landlords. Thank you, Chairperson.
Honorable members, I know you've got a lot of information that you want to ask the questions, because it's important also for our members outside to understand what is happening here. I'm just saying it because I know all of us, onze borsters bietjie vol, maar laat ons maar net eers die questions vra vandag. Honorable.
Thank you, Deputy Chairperson. There's one thing, Honourable Minister, you say that 70% of SMMEs who applied for help didn't get that help because there weren't enough money. Now, my question to you is whether you and your department are aware and have read the lengthy letter written by the President requesting you and your colleagues to stop corruption, and if so, what is your position on this matter, and what practical measures will you undertake to adhere to this request and then ensure that there is enough money to go around and support SMMEs?
Are you finished, Honorable Lon?
Well, if we can ask more questions, Deputy Chair.
I'm just asking because you are not, I didn't, you just stopped abruptly, that's why I'm asking. Honorable Dangor.
Chairperson, thank you very much. Minister, the challenges with debt relief measures in the main relates to limitations with regard to resources. What other measures are in place or will be considered to provide relief measures to small businesses? My second question, Minister, is can the Minister update on the progress with regard to businesses development service support to SMMEs to match wholesalers? Minister, I say this against the background that 200 billion has been allocated as a guarantee to banks, or the 500 billion that is being thrown around by propagandists. And the banks have lent less than 15 billion of the 200 billion that has been provided. So it's not 500 billion that has been provided. It is 200 billion of that in guarantees to banks. And I hope some members will actually take cognizance of the facts. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Dangor. Honorable Aukam.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Honorable Deputy Chairperson, the effect of the COVID-19 pandemic has been catastrophic on SMMEs and sole proprietors alike. Yet, sole proprietors in South Africa have been specifically excluded from properly participating in the economy. One of the major contributors to the construction of this economic roadblock is the stubborn refusal to allow sole proprietors to register with the CIPC. The question is, what concrete steps is your department taking, Honourable Minister, in conjunction with the Department of Trade and Industry to resolve the impasse and finally include sole proprietors
on the CIPC database, and then to allow them to play an enhanced and productive role in our aiding economy. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Honorable Outcome, Honorable Mukause.
Thank you, Deputy Chairperson. Honorable Minister, your government continues to appoint consultants and agencies to actually give support to small businesses. And they don't give the aftercare support after giving them a certain portion of training. Their failure is solely dependent on your government, because you pay such consultants without any follow-up of what is happening. Don't you think that it's time that you reconsider training these SMMEs yourselves as government and not using a consultant? Minister, the fresh produce market in Dr. J.S. Moroka municipality in Kangala region in Mpumalanga was started in 2009 and has not so far completed, despite, Minister, the expenditure of 40 million rands on the project. Could the minister provide clarity as to who was responsible for that particular project? Why was it not completed? And was that particular service provider blacklisted, or are they still running the business as usual?
Honorable Sileku.
Oh,
Sileku.
mandibulise Sihlalo, ndibulise nakumphathiswa, ndibulise nakumalungu e-NCOP. Minister, are you aware that small businesses are facing a number of challenges during the lockdown that include UIF still not being paid out to a lot of businesses, the fact that the financial relief is a loan and therefore many businesses are unable to afford any more debt given to the financial crisis they will find themselves in already, while load shedding is not only making businesses lose money, but the business infrastructure and assets are breaking down due to the power being constantly on and off, especially in the agricultural sector. All the above mentioned problems cause further financial strain on businesses, which has a negative knock-on effect on an owner's ability to keep the businesses afloat. Minister, what are the proactive steps that you have taken with your colleagues in cabinet to ensure that SMMEs have less of a burden to carry in spite of the inability of the government to provide a stable and reliable electricity supply due to the mismanagement of ESCOM? Enkosi kakhulu.
Thank you, Honorable Isaac. Honorable Mushodi. Honorable Mushodi.
Thank you, Deputy Chair. Honorable members, MEC Makalo from the Free State Province. Honorable Deputy Chairperson, I've got only two questions to Honorable Minister. Honorable Minister, my first question is, you announced that the department will establish Township Entrepreneurs Fund. I just want to check, can the minister update the House on the progress in this regard? Question number two, Honorable Deputy Chairperson to Honorable Minister is, Honorable Minister reported that unemployment graduate will be robbed in to assist in terms of capacity to SMEs. Can the minister provide the House with update of the process on this matter? Lastly, Honorable Chairperson, Honorable Minister, in the beginning of your presentation, you mentioned some of the millions that given to other provinces. Can the minister assist me, because I didn't hear anything given to the Free State Province? Because as the members of the NCOP, our interest is our provinces. So you mentioned a lot of money is given to other provinces, but I didn't hear anything given to the Free State. Can I get the clarity why Free State didn't get anything on that slide that you mentioned in the beginning? Thank you, Honorable Deputy Chair.
Honorable Moshodi, thank you. Speaker Shiba.
Thank you very much, Deputy Chairperson. Greetings to yourself, the Chairperson, and Minister, and also my MEC, Ubabungomane from Mpumalanga. Minister, Mpumalanga is a rural province where most of our people are earning living through selling of vegetables, fruits, cultural craft, and dukus along the road to the passers-by. Some are registered and others are not registered. And those people were strongly affected by COVID-19, and most of them are women. What I wanted to check with you, Minister, is that, is there any debt relief fund set aside for such informal businesses? Remember that some of them are not registered and we know them. Secondly, there are those women that are also selling goodies to learners at school. Since the declaration of lockdown, they are sitting at their homes with no income at all. What is your plan for such people? Because they are still at homes as I speak with no bread on the table. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Bosov, Mpumalanga.
Good morning, Deputy Chair. Thank you very much. Minister, small businesses will be the key to turning around the economy in a post-COVID South Africa. Your department, unfortunately, cannot operate in isolation, and departments of Labour and Employment, Tourism, Finance, Energy and Public Enterprises, and Public Works and Infrastructure, and many others need to come on board. Private entities such as banks, advisors, and accounting firms also have a role to play. Minister, what are you doing to mobilize these joint efforts? Will you also then write to the President to establish an interministerial committee to help you, or should your ministry be collapsed and combined with several others? Thank you, Deputy Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Ryder.
Thank you very much, Deputy. Thank you very much, Deputy Chairperson. Sorry. Minister, South Africans have raised legitimate concerns over the years about the overinflated data costs and data coverage, which have a negative effect for students, job seekers, and businesses alike. SMMEs are particularly affected during these times because they need to ensure the safety of their employees by allowing people and enabling people to work from home. What tangible action has your department taken to lower the cost of data for thousands of small businesses who now found themselves in a position of having to buy more data as they carry the cost for their employees too?
Honorable Mfaela.
Yes, Honorable Deputy Chairperson, and allow me to greet Honorable Minister and MECs from provinces. Mine is short, Honorable Chairperson. I just want to know from the Minister that how his health department fight this disease of turning the SMMEs into agent of big businesses, like fund. They use these small businesses as a fund or window dressing. So whatever help that these small businesses get from the government, it end up to a big Makanda Kulu businesses who are there like sharks, want to finish with small businesses. I just want to know that how they avoid that kind of disease from big businesses to small businesses. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Mfaela. Honorable Khai, are you covered? Honorable Khai, are you covered? Honorable Bosov, do you want to ask again? Please lower your hand. We will now go over to the Minister. Yes,
Sorry,
Honorable
Chair.
Bozo.
If I may, could I ask another question?
Deputy
Thank you
Chair,
very
can
much.
you advise me, please?
May I carry on, Chair?
Honorable Bozo, if I allow you to ask, if I allow you another round, I will have to allow everyone. Can we be fair to one another too? Please,
Okay,
miss.
I was just asking.
Yeah, the only one that I will allow is Honorable Brataset because his hand was up. I don't know what happened to his system. I will allow Honorable Brataset.
And myself, Deputy Chair.
Thank you, Chair.
Yes, okay.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. Minister, many small businesses across the country are tour guide operations who have also applied for relief funding. When will these tour guides be paid in terms of relief funding for small businesses? What are the reasons for the delay? And what are you doing to motivate Cabinet to move the country to level 1, where our borders can open in time for the festive season? That will be the peak of the tour guide business sector. I thank you, Minister. I thank you, Deputy Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Brataset. Honorable Moritsane.
Thank you, Deputy Chair. Minister, in Valcom, in Free State, Lejweleputswa region, there's a center there at the place called Menis. That center is hosting small business people who are doing the house interior, clothing, welding, shoemakers, paper making, carpet making, just to mention the few. Those small businesses that are operating at that center there, they were 15 when they started, but as we speak, they are now about only 6 that are remaining. Their biggest challenge is that they have never been assisted financially. They are really, really struggling. Hence, they are busy closing shops one by one, meaning that when they close shops, there are people who are losing jobs. So please, how best can you assist those people financially so that they can be able to sustain their business? Thank you very much.
Thank you, honorable members. Honorable Minister, we will give over to you. I just want to make one observation, and it is in the issue that we appreciate the fact that small businesses will now be followed so that they can be at least registered or in one way or another be recognized. Because I think this will assist us in measuring the contribution to the GDP of our SMMEs, particularly in our informal sector. If that, so I think there is a very positive move, and I just thought let me make that observation because I think it is exactly some of the questions that are coming from the members. Is that the informal economy, in the informal economy, businesses are falling through the cracks because there is no record that is existing about them. And then we will give over to you so that you can respond to the few questions that have been asked. Afterwards, we will continue to proceed to the provinces. Over to you,
Honorable Deputy Chair. Honorable Deputy Chair.
What is your point, Honorable Lond?
I just wanted to have a, clarity, and I do appreciate, as you said, the opportunity we have to engage. But it's also just help so that we know what the ground rules are. Now, I did send you a private message. I don't know if you saw it, but it seems like some members are allowed to ask multiple questions, and then others, we just ask the single question. Now, if you can just clarify that for us going forward, it would help a lot, so that we have a fair playing field and we apply the same rules to everybody that participate.
Honorable Lond, I think this is not the first time that we have this interactive sessions. And the principle that I have always applied was that no one should speak more than 3 minutes in asking the question. We have never limited anyone on the questions that they want to ask. But the one thing that I have applied is the principle that no one should speak more than 3 minutes. There was never said it should be 1 or 2 or 3 questions, but we gave people time limit. So I hope it is acceptable for you. And because I haven't opened the chats, because I didn't want my attention to be distracted, so I apologize, Honorable Minister. We will just give to Honorable Governor as a special delegate that want to ask a question. Honorable Governor, over to you, please.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Chair, for this opportunity. Greetings to the Minister as well as my MEC from KZN and our special delegates. Honorable Minister, I fully support your call for us as South Africans to support local business and especially to wear clothing that is manufactured locally. Now, my question is that is there any interaction between yourself and the Minister of Trade and Industry to limit or totally do away with cheap imports that are coming from outside countries? Because those imports actually restrict locally produced goods from getting into the marketplace, because people will obviously buy what they can best afford. So my question is there any interaction between yourself and the Minister of Trade and Industry to limit cheap imports? Thank you, Honorable Deputy Chair.
Honorable Governor, thank you very much. Now it's over to the Minister. Minister, thank you very much.
Thank you, Deputy Chairperson, and thank you to the honorable members for the questions. And if you say there are few questions, Deputy Chair, I wonder when there are many questions, how many will they be?
Many of the questions is dedication.
Honorable Ndongeni, you asked about the payment holiday. I presented the details of the payment holiday. The presentation will be available to you. But critically, you asked what were the challenges that were faced with the participating businesses who qualified for the payment holidays. The challenge has been, even when you have given them payment holidays, the reopening of the economy, it has not been as fast as required, and the recovery is not as fast as it would ordinarily be. Therefore, they still need to be supported to make sure that they continue to trade. That's why they also qualify for the business viability scheme that we have announced, and they are part of those who will be supported through the business viability scheme until they can fully stand on their own. I've equally indicated, you said, what are we doing to make sure that we improve access to markets for SMMEs, in particular the small markets. I indicated when we're talking about route to markets and the basket of goods that we have developed, 48 goods that we've developed, to make sure that we support SMMEs to build capacity to supply who are already linked with wholesalers. I indicated that we are linking them with the international market, and our first stop has been the African continental market. I even indicated some of them are already exporting into the African continental market, and we continue to work with more of them to make sure that their products are certified, they have capacity to have the right quantities, and also get them to be able to meet the international standards of competitiveness, pricing, and quality. But we are also working with the International Trade Center, where we are linking, by end of this financial year, we would have linked our SMME SA trade exchange with the ITC trade exchange so that their products can be available and visible to the international market. We're also working with the European Union and Ambassador Konki on it to make sure that we link again the SMME SA with the European Union market so that they can be direct purchasing or trading between SMMEs in South Africa and the European counterparts. Our requirement or responsibility is that we must make sure that when we list them, they have the capacity, their products are certified, and they have the right pricing to be competitive. And we link them, we give them logistical supports for export. And we are already working on that. And I've indicated that we have our programs include product certification with SABS, which is also fast-tracked, and also capacity or volume aggregation where there's no volume, or building, helping them build business infrastructure to increase their own production capacity. And they work directly with us on that one. Honorable Detroit, you asked what are we doing to support the SMMEs that are not BE compliant, that are tax paying. Government has provided the 200 billion rands, bank guarantee, credit guarantee scheme. Of that 200 billion rands, and banks have advanced 15 billion rands to SMMEs. Those SMMEs, 75% are white. Equally, the business partners who SIFA is a shareholder in the business partners, they have a scheme to support SMMEs, and of their scheme, when they announced the 1 billion rands for their scheme, which was availed by by Mr. Johan Rupert, the patriotic South African, 75% went to white companies, and that information we can avail to yourself. So there are sectors that are using resources that are both government availed, but also private sector availed to support the SMMEs that are not BE compliant. And you cannot say the credit guarantee scheme is not a government initiative. It is a government initiative. Honorable Bibi, you asked what has KZN done to be so progressive in terms of the spaza shops. What has happened is that in KZN, spaza shops were already organized in buying banners. And also the provincial government, led by the Premier Zikalala and the MEC, they had already started an initiative to support spaza shops. So when we came with a program to support spaza shops, they also had to plug in, so it was easier to reach their numbers. And that's why KZN has progressed faster. And also, as it comes to wholesalers, is the same. There were already wholesalers that were active, and it was us who then chipped in. I must point out to say on wholesalers, the emerging wholesalers that we're partnering with, unfortunately, they come from the Free State province. They don't come from KZN. So KZN has a responsibility to support more wholesalers, emerging wholesalers in the rural areas so that they can then participate. But we continue to work with the provincial department to make sure that the other emerging wholesalers or those general dealers who have the capacity to ramp up to become wholesalers can be supported to become wholesalers so that spaza shops can stock up from them. And you asked, what are we doing to support the post-lockdown environment? I indicated that we've got the manufacturing scheme to support, we've got the business viability scheme to support, but also the township and rural enterprises scheme. They are not only for during lockdown, they go into post-lockdown. Even the informal and micro business schemes, they continue to be beyond lockdown period, because we are looking at a 24 months to 36 months support dedicated so that we hold their hands and they do not falter because we came in, gave them money and gave them some training and left. And Honorable Arnold raised an issue of saying, what are we doing to make the intervention in the Western Cape? We have started to engage with the Khayelitsha Development Forum and other development forums to make sure that we can have the numbers directly and then deal with the metros and the provincial government of the Western Cape to make sure that indeed SMMEs participate. What is good in the development forums, whether it's the Khayelitsha Development Forum or the Nyanga Gugulethu Development Forums, it's a non-partisan forum. So in the Khayelitsha Development Forums, I've already had an interaction with them and we are doing another follow-up with them. It also includes members of the DA who have undertaken, acknowledging that the DA-led government in the Western Cape has not been helpful to make sure that we have they license or assist with the qualification criteria for the SMMEs, informal business and micro businesses in the Western Cape, and they've undertaken to intervene and assist with unlocking that red tape or that bottleneck. And since that engagement, there has been the progress that we have registered now is because of the efforts of the Khayelitsha Development Forum in that instance. And that goes both for the formal, informal, and so forth that we're participating in. And you talked about business properties. Government assists SMMEs to acquire business properties. Government does not go out dishing out business properties. We avail funding for SMMEs to have access to business properties. And even in instances of...
Honorable Arnold's order, please. Minister, you may continue.
Sorry, ma'am, the minister is not correct in answering.
Then you call order, you just don't respond, you call order and you then make your point. You cannot just shout out. You know most the procedure of the House. Thank you. Continue, Honorable Minister.
Before I was interrupted, if Honorable Arnold can just listen and then he can raise an issue.
Honorable Arnold, if the Minister can conclude response, and then you can possibly, if there is something that you feel was left out, then you can come in. Honorable Minister.
Thank you. In the properties that are owned by government, which are the industrial parks that were developed by the DTIC, and also some CIFA-owned properties, which we have been going around doing an assessment of those properties, we have made sure that where there are vacancies, we then start to solicit occupants when the refurbishments have been done of those properties. You will be aware, honorable members, that during the 5th administration, there was a decision that CIFA must dispose some of their business properties because CIFA was not in the business of owning properties. We took a decision that CIFA is not going to dispose of those properties. We are going to use those properties to make sure that we improve access by SMMEs to business infrastructure. And we're even talking about what is the possible model of using those properties to enable or seed the participation of SMME in the property management sector, where CIFA will lease those properties to small-scale property or facility management companies who will onwards lease and manage the properties to other SMMEs as part of extending access to business properties by SMMEs. But in the informal business schemes, for instance, in spaza shops, hair salons, we are also assisting to make sure that where it's possible, we need to bring an infrastructure in our program called the Shared Infrastructure Program, and we'll announce the details when the program has been finalized and the funding has been determined. Members should be aware that there has been a cut on the budget and Treasury continues. They've given us notice that they're cutting the budget. We are, of course, fighting against the budget cuts so that we can be able to go a long way in implementing that scheme. Over and above that, our funding for SMMEs include, that's why we are particular, and it's a disjuncture from the previous funding arrangement, that we fund working capital. Working capital can be used towards payment of rent by an SMME in the event they're renting a business facility and premises. Thank you, Chairperson, on that one. Honorable Lund asked a question that had nothing to do with us. It was a general question about stopping corruption. The President has announced measures that are being done to stop corruption. And if it's specific to the Department of Small Business Development, there have not been any allegations and accusations against the work that we've done and we've been doing around corruption. But that as it may be, on our initiatives that we have done, we used and partnered with banks, both the UBank, Standard Bank, and Nedbank, to make sure that we limit the vested interest that officials may have in the disbursements of funds and do it with an independent body that can guarantee the legitimacy and traceability, accountability of the system through the banking system. And that's why we insist that they must be registered so that there can be traceability on that. And in terms of the other work, we've got a risk management unit, we've got a hotline that we're reporting corruption, and efforts of government to continue to publicize those that have been supported by us to make sure that there is transparency and Kumbuzo does not go and fund her own family, or officials of the department do not fund their own families. We continue to publish lists of those SMMEs, informal and micro businesses and township enterprises that have been supported. It is not a once-off issue for us, it's a continuous issue so that people can know who has been supported and then hold us to account if there are those who have been supported who are not supposed to be supported. Honorable Dango asked, say, given the limitation of resources, what are we doing to make sure that we increase the access to resources? And he correctly points out that the banks have been given 200 billion rands to support SMMEs, and they chose to support only 15 billion rands, and they support white-owned businesses, and majority of the black-owned businesses are not qualifying, they are rejected. We have already approached the National Treasury to participate in the National Credit Guarantee Scheme. At the House in Parliament, the Portfolio Committee of Small Business Development plus the Select Committee, they've already summoned the National Treasury and the banks and SAB to make sure they can account on why are other SMMEs not funded? Why is the criteria kicking out majority of Black-owned SMMEs, but also how do they facilitate the participation of the Kula Credit Guarantee Scheme in the National Credit Guarantee Scheme as we have applied and we qualified for participation in there, because we believe that the participation of the Kula Credit Guarantee Scheme under the National Credit Guarantee Scheme will go a long way in improving access to the limited resources that are available to our people. Honorable Ockham raised the issue about sole proprietors not being able to be supported meaningfully because of they are restricted not to register on CIPC. We have done two things. The first part is that in some of our schemes, we are supporting sole proprietors that are paying tax, that are registered for tax. But we have also taken up a discussion with the CIPC to open up the registration of sole proprietors in the CIPC database. We are supported in that by the Department of Trade, Industry and Competition, because we believe all businesses must be registered, and sole proprietors, they contribute immensely in the business environment. And therefore, we agree with you, Honorable Ockham, that sole proprietors must be registered in CIPC, and will not rest until that arrangement for them to be able to register through the CIPC is achieved. Honorable Mukause raised the issue around consultants, agencies, and aftercare. The problem is that that is very generalized. We have never spoken about consultants on this part. Our focus has been working with the SETAs, the Sector Education Training Authorities, to make sure that the training is done. We have placed the unemployed graduates. We have placed our business advisors from CEDA to support these businesses. And Honorable Mukause, you'll be amazed to learn that we've always had what we call aftercare support or post-investment support. So we just don't dump our money and do a once-off training and walk away. We walk the journey and the path with an SMME to support them. And that's what we have also emphasized on the business viability scheme, that's what we are doing, including holding shares or taking share equity in some of these SMMEs, where we know that the burden of their repayment will be too much if we just give them the loans and walk away. We'll hold shares depending on the size and other things that we'll consider, so that we can walk the journey with them, so that when we do the aftercare. You spoke about the fresh produce market of Mpumalanga in Kangala. It was done by the Department of Agriculture in the province. The MEC from Mpumalanga is here, or MEC Ngomane. He will be best placed to respond on that matter. But in terms of the work that we are doing with the Department of Agriculture, Land Reform and Rural Development to support the informal fruit and veg vendors, the Department of Agriculture is busy collating data on all the fresh produce markets in our areas, township and rural areas, to make sure that they can intervene and revitalize them or get them to a working condition, so that the fruit and vegetable vendors that we are supporting can source their fruit and vegetable from those fresh produce markets. So we will be awaiting progress on that regard, and we'll also follow up with the Provincial Department of Economic Development on the progress on that matter, because we've got a vested interest to make sure that our fruit and vegetable vendors have access to that. To that market, as it's critical. Honorable Hayes raised an issue of that. Are we aware that some of the UIF has not been paid? We are aware of the efforts to make sure that everybody is paid by the UIF, and the scourge of corruption